Could Jasmy hypothetically become the number one project in its sector? That wouldn't surprise me, and $1, that's still my price target for this bull run, but that's not the only reason why I think it could be number one in its sector. The reason being is because if we take a look at Jasmy, it's under some stiff competition, but doesn't really have that many competitors. Now, we have to keep in mind, right? Jasmy is focused on data storage. When we take a look at the landscape, right, we have to take a look at this. What is the number one project as of right now within this space that many people consider to, again, be number one? That's Filecoin. Now, again, Jasmy could be argued as being number two or number three. Sometimes people like Arweave, however, as of right now, I'd arguably say that Jasmy's number two. Now, of course, third place Arweave, and then fourth or fifth place, we can either say JasmyCoin or Storage, right? But it's spelled like Storage, but some people call it Storage. But yeah, besides that point, when I take a look at this space, I mean, come on. Jasmy hypothetically becoming number one, especially once the bull run picks up again, especially when things start kicking to fifth gear, I think is pretty much written all over the wall, right? Even though I'm not necessarily saying that it will happen because, of course, Filecoin does have a lot of fans, a lot of hype. But we have to ask ourselves this question. Is Filecoin the first ever legally compliant cryptocurrency in the country of Japan? I mean, no, because allegedly that title does belong to Jasmy. So Jasmy is a lot cooler in that aspect. I think Jasmy has the it factor. You know what I mean? It has the cool factor, right? Projects that are focused on decentralizing data storage, it's pretty much the coolest. It's the most interesting. Even people call it the Bitcoin of Japan. I mean, so that sink in, right? When a project is bad, it's not going to be called that. Now, Jasmy isn't Bitcoin, but people call it that because it is, again, first ever legally compliant cryptocurrency in Japan. So that's a good nickname. That's a good saying right there. And some people like to say, but oh yeah, take a look at the fundamentals of Filecoin. It's slightly better than Jasmy on this. Well, here's the thing. If you take a look at the experts, they'll be able to tell the small differences, right? They'll be able to tell these minute details. But the average individual who's just opening up like, CoinMarketCap or like Binance or whatever, right? And they take a look at, the category of like, certain cryptocurrencies, they don't really know, or they don't even want to pay attention to the minute details of like, something that is like Filecoin or Jasmy and the differences. I don't think very many people are going to be paying attention to stuff like that. What do people pay attention to, generally speaking? I'm not talking about like the top 2%. I'm talking about like 98% of the people who actually believe in cryptocurrencies. What I've seen, right? They typically care about the cool factor. Jasmy has that. First ever legally compliant cryptocurrency in Japan. Number two, you take a look at the community is very dynamic. It's very passionate. This does matter, right? Number three, good exchange listings. Number four, it's, again, even having the nickname, the Bitcoin of Japan. So really, when you take a look at Jasmy, this is very fantastic. And if you take a look at the logo of Jasmy, I would arguably say it's the most cool compared to the other, competitors. Arweave, amazing project, but the logo is a little bit, not that exciting, right? It looks like a very serious project. Nothing wrong with that. But you know what? Jasmy just seems more joyful, seems more fun. Storage, or should I say Storage, the logo, it's a little bit boring. It's just like basically a cloud. Not that interesting. You take a look at Filecoin, not that interesting either. I mean, it's just the letter F basically, right? Like Filecoin, When you take a look at something like, JasmyCoin, now JasmyCoin's a little bit interesting, but again, it doesn't have the fans and the dynamic nature of the community that Jasmy has as of right now. So arguably, I would say number one is Jasmy. It's the coolest, right? The logo, the colors are, kind of like the Bitcoin colors, of course, it's orange. And if you take a look at something like Jasmy again, it just seems a lot more interesting. I get it's like the letter J, much like Filecoin, which is the letter F, but this type of stuff does matter. Now, beyond that, we take a look at something like the data storage market, which is predicted to be worth nearly $800 billion in size by 2030, according to Fortune Business Insight. This is a very serious market right here. Yeah, sure, it's not the meme coin market. It's not AI, right? It's not, something flashy like, DeFi or NFTs. Data storage is considered a little bit boring to some people, but to me, it's very exciting. And not to mention, even though it doesn't have the hype as the other markets I mentioned before, historically speaking at least, right? I think this could be a big narrative because people during a fully fledged bull run, they're constantly looking for the new thing, right? The new and shiny quote unquote toy, the new and flashy market. What is the market that people haven't really believed in? And I think when it comes to something like Jasmy, or should I say the decentralized data storage market, this is something that really hasn't gained that mass attention yet. So Jasmy is in this prime position. It's the coolest project in that sector. And I think it's the most interesting and the most unique. It's the most passionate fan base. And take a look at, for example, the team of Jasmy, right? Filled with people who've worked at places like Sony for a very long time, for multiple years. Also places like KPMG, which is one of the big four accounting firms. So you got to think about this. Jasmy, they're the real deal in terms of the team, in terms of the project, in terms of what they're trying to do. It doesn't necessarily mean that Jasmy is any more unique in terms of the fundamentals when compared to Filecoin, but the optics when it comes to Jasmy is very fantastic, like the perceived cool factor, right? It's there when it comes to Jasmy, in my opinion. It's like, for instance, like this, if you take a look at, let's say, like a Porsche or a Ferrari, right? They're both really good. But then what is like the cool factor? Something like a Ferrari, in my opinion, it just looks very dynamic, right? It's like, for instance, people who buy a Nissan GTR. I've never understood that because at the end of the day, it's like a Nissan, right? The way to take a look at it is that a Nissan Altima and a Nissan GTR, they're both a Nissan. I get it, the GTR is very fantastic, but still, I'm just saying, yeah, I don't know what to say about that. But here's the thing. If you take a look at something like, Jasmy, it's like a Ferrari. But then when it comes to, Filecoin or Arweave, it's like a Nissan GTR. The Ferrari is just a lot more cooler. You know what I mean? So this is just the way to take a look at it. Now, keep in mind, there's over 600 million crypto owners as of right now. According to Crypto.com research, I think this bull run really hasn't seen the peak yet. I mean, with that many crypto owners, over 500 million, I mean, really the sky's the limit. But of course, there's a pullback. I'm totally aware of that. But I think better days are ahead because historically speaking, it has been noted that as a worst case scenario, altcoins, they usually peak around 18 months after a Bitcoin halving event. And the last Bitcoin halving event happened in April of last year. So around 18 months from then is actually around October this year. Still plenty of time. I just don't think that this bull run is over quite yet. Of course, at a certain point, there's going to be the end to this bull run. I'm totally aware of that, but I don't think we have seen that peak yet, at least from what I believe, right? Now, I can't say I'm going to be 100% correct, but when I take a look at historical data, I just believe this. And even if we take a look at Charles Hoskinson, who is the co-founder of Ethereum and the founder of Cardano, even back in November of last year, he did predict that 1 to 2 years from then, he could very well see Bitcoin reaching anywhere between $250,000 all the way up to $500,000. And we all know what would happen to something like Jasmy and altcoin if Bitcoin were to do that, right? So even Charles Hoskinson, again, co-founder of Ethereum, founder of Cardano, so he knows what he's talking about. When he says something like that, I will pay attention. And even historically, it kind of fits in line with what he's saying, right? Again, that's the worst case when altcoins usually peak. Now, doesn't necessarily mean that Charles Hoskinson was talking about altcoins, but again, we could only imagine usually when Bitcoin does something like that, something like Jasmy could very well go along with the ride. And again, $1 is still my price target. Keep in mind, if it were to go to the price of $1, considering current circulating supply, market cap would be around $50 billion. This is around a 73x from here. I don't think it's too crazy. We've seen Dogecoin reach over $80 billion in market cap back in 2021. That was years ago. This time around, I just don't see why not. I think Jasmy could hypothetically become the #1 player in its sector, aka the data storage market, when it comes to these crypto-related projects. And again, $1 wouldn't surprise me whatsoever during this bull run. And make sure to subscribe if you gain value from this video. Greatly appreciated. It's Mali the Captain, and I'll catch you all in the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.